Hey everybody, good evening to you. This is Tammy here with Capital City RIA, and we have Mr. Broderick over here to my right. He may be to your left, he may be up above, he may be down below, but he's over here on the screen to my right. Brock, thank you so much for joining us. I
My
know we've
pleasure.
got
My pleasure.
lots and lots of people that have registered for this evening's webinar, and I know I'm crazy excited. I know you've shared you're really crazy excited. So
Absolutely.
while everybody is jumping on the call, for those of you that have joined us, if you could take a minute and just let us know that you're here, type a question in the question box or in the chat box. Just let us know that you're out there, and throughout the entire fireside chat with Brock and I this evening, if you have any questions at any time, please feel free to go ahead and type those questions into the chat box. I can see those questions and we will get them answered one by one. So for those of you that are continuing to join us, like I said, if you could just take a moment, say hi, type in the chat box, because we do have everybody muted. And if you do have a question, make sure that you type those questions in. And we are going to get started here in just a moment. We have a very, very special evening planned. This is a live webinar. I call it a fireside chat. I have a very, very special friend of ours here with us. And hey, Kojo, there's Kevin, Karen. Hi, Kevin. Hey, Kojo. Hey, Karen. How are you guys? So welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you guys for typing in and letting us know that you're out there. So glad that you guys are here. So some of you may know Brock. There's Lorraine. Hey, Lorraine. Good to see you. Welcome, welcome. Some of you may know Brock and have had the pleasure and the opportunity to spend some time with him. And what I can share with you, I'm not going to steal too much of his thunder, because I want him to be able to share so much about who he is. But what I want to share with you this evening, and the reason that we want to have this fireside chat versus just having a standard webinar presentation, is A, because it's live, and B, we want it to be very engaging so that everybody can participate in it. So I'm going to be interviewing Brock. We're going to be just having a really awesome conversation about real estate, about how we both got started in real estate, why we chose real estate, some of the fears and the successes that we've shared in real estate, you know, how we've overcome some of the big obstacles, how we've overcome some of the big fears. And believe me, those fears don't ever go away. Those obstacles don't ever go away. The challenges don't ever go away. And, you know, they're always there. It's a matter of how you choose to deal with them. And real estate is like juggling 30 balls up in the air simultaneously. There's always all these moving parts. And, you know, when I get asked questions all the time, you know, you're so lucky. And I laugh, because I'm like, oh, sit down, put your seatbelt on, because it has nothing to do with luck. You know, it's hard work. It's not easy. It's simple, but it's definitely not easy. And Brock is one of the most spiritual, happy, loves life, and a family man. We were just talking about his daughter's 7th birthday yesterday, and all the amazingness that he did for her. And he just is so passionate about sharing what it is that he does. And he doesn't do just real estate. He's an entrepreneur. A serial dedicated entrepreneur. You've got several businesses that you're dealing with right now in your life, in addition to all that you do with real estate. And the most exciting for me, selfishly, and Team CC RIA, is the fact that we get to have you be a part of our family and share all of your knowledge and your wisdom and your talents. And it's such an honor to be on this journey with you. And I'm really excited to have you be such a part of what it is that we're doing, and the growth and the success and the expansion and being able to change more lives and impact more lives. So welcome. Thank you for your time this evening. And I'm so looking forward to being here.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tammy. It's my pleasure to be here. I don't take it lightly that you would share your audience, that your audience would share their evening, and their attention with us tonight. I consider it a great honor to be here. I don't take it lightly. I take it for granted. I'm looking forward to a phenomenal conversation, hopefully a lot of value tonight.
Awesome. Well, I know it'll be tremendous value. That I know.
Oh, yeah.
So I would really like to just get started by giving everybody a foundation of who you are.
Okay.
Why did you get started in real estate? What gives you the right to be able to share all that you are going to be sharing about real estate?
Yeah.
And, you know, who's Brock? Who's Broderick Valentine? And can you just give that foundation, give that story of who you are and how you got started?
Well, even before real estate, really my whole life, I'm a son. I take great pride in being a son and a grandson of my parents and my grandparents. I'm a husband, almost 14 years. I'm a father. I'm a student first. I'm a teacher also, and I've played all of these roles my entire life. I've been a son, a grandson, a student, and a teacher my entire life. I'm the oldest of my generation, of my family. I'm the oldest of my siblings, all my cousins. And I was always the guy to, I guess, figure out the journey through the woods, if that makes sense, to clear the path for the little ones behind me. And that's really kind of how I ended up in real estate, honestly. I was living a life, working a job that treated me very well, actually. I was there 10 years. But I've always known or felt like there was more possibilities and more available to me. I recall being a kid growing up in Southeast D.C., and in Southeast there's a body of water that is Southeast. And there's a bridge that goes from Maryland, D.C. border over into Virginia, Alexandria, Virginia. I recall being a kid wondering, why are the lives of those people on that side of the water so much different than our lives on this side of the water? Mm-hmm. And I would get all kind of answers from those around me and what wasn't possible, and a lot of the social and economical challenge and everything. And all those things were real, but then were never enough for, I guess, my soul to shut up. I mean, my mind stopped asking questions eventually, and I settled down for a life that I felt like eventually was too small for me. And that's not in no way knocking the job. I appreciated my job. I did. It treated me well. After being there 10 years, I started out, I was a cable guy originally.
Oh,
I worked for a company called Cox Communications. I was 19 years old, working in Fairfax County, Virginia. When I left Cox, I think I had 5 different jobs in 10 years. When I left, I was the director of a commercial, Cox is like Comcast, they began deploying telephone services before I left. And I was the guy responsible for the oversight of the network for commercial customers, and then my group, my team, would repair the issues and build their telephone lines in our switch that they operate. Right. And that was my last job there. But yeah, they wanted to make some adjustments. They begged me to stay. Literally begged me to stay. But I took the opportunity to leave. Didn't know what I was going to do. But I recall my grandfather saying when I was a young kid, it was money in real estate. And I didn't know how to figure money out. Everybody around me thought I understood money. And I did compared to them, but I knew I didn't know very much. So my grandfather told me real estate, there's always money in it. So I figured I'll go with the money and I'll figure it out. I left my job, told my wife, babe, we're going to figure this out. Give me a year. I don't know anything yet. We can survive for a year if I make no money. You give me a year, I'll figure it out. She said,
so
okay.
You already knew going in to give yourself a year.
My youthful ambition and my pride, I thought certainly take me only a few months to figure this thing out. But I wanted her to know that even if I screwed up for 9-10 months, we wouldn't lose everything. So I had a year of runway. So I had enough money put away inside to where if things didn't work out the way I expected them to for the next year, I felt responsible for her well-being. I wasn't going to just leave my job at income and have no plan after this. I knew I didn't know real estate at all, but I wanted to give her the comfort in knowing that it may take me a while to figure this out. So yeah, we built a year of cushion before we started. And I went full time immediately. And honestly, about a month in, first thing I did was I didn't understand real estate investing was a thing. I had bought some properties in years prior with an uncle of mine out of state, and that never really made sense, honestly. Never got any formal training. I was taking real estate classes with Long and Foster in Columbia, Maryland, a real estate license, because the only time I knew the real estate was get my license. While in class getting my license, I would hear conversations, and one gentleman was a guy flipping houses. I'm like, okay, I make 3%. He makes 20%. I like his math better than mine. So I'm like, what are you doing and how are you doing it? So literally, I online looking at other real estate classes, and I saw a marketing for a real estate course. Went to a free workshop. That free workshop then sold me a training package. I recruited some family, helped me pay for it. I had no money besides my year of runway. We got some training, probably too much training, honestly. But it was 9 months of getting nothing at all. So 9 months in, it made a single dollar. Frustrated, wanted to quit, but I had commitments to my wife especially. And by this time, she was pregnant with our first kid also. So 9 months in, no money. After 9 months, made our first few $1,000s, and really haven't looked back since.
Wow. So I have a question about just that, because so many times people get so excited about the shiny object of real estate, right? And the get rich quick or 30,000 in 30 days and, you know, all of that.
Yes.
And I know the title to the webinar that I put on Meetup is 6 Figures in 6 months. And I did that for a reason, because is it possible? Yes. Does it take a lot of hard work and dedication? Yes. But one of the first things I want to talk on is that you were realistic about going into the business, that you gave yourself a year. And I see a lot of investors don't have those realistic expectations of a year. And or they don't have financial resources set aside. So they come into real estate as a desperate measure and a desperate means to another way. And they don't understand that it takes truly, not a year, but it can take 3 to 5 years to build a business. I mean, that's a national statistic. Real estate is a business. So at such a young age, it blows my mind that you knew to give yourself a year and that you knew you needed to have some financial resources set aside. Can I ask, what in your mind was the amount that you felt you needed to have set aside?
Well, and I don't want to take too much credit for the forethought. Or that it is, I have some forethought. It was actually really simple. My wife and I, when we first got married in our early 20s, the plan was to buy a house very young, but to buy a house we could afford on one income. Keep our business low because ultimately we wanted to have a family. We didn't want to have her have to work to support our family. So 10 years later, or 7 years later, when time for that to leave their job, I had a small severance package of like $26,000. After taxes was maybe, I don't know, 18 grand maybe. And additionally, we may have had 9 or 10 grand saved. I had maybe $30,000 saved. And I figured that was enough. Our expenses were about $3,000 a month. I figured, okay, I can go a year from that. And she was still working also. She's still bringing in some income herself. Well, my plan all along was to get her off of her job as soon as possible. I didn't mind if I worked. I didn't want her working. That was the original plan. So really, honestly, it was more fear than anything. I had made promises, and I was a very young man, to this beautiful woman who decided to take my name and become my wife. We had a mortgage, and we had a plan to build a family. So to me, I felt like it would be irresponsible of me to not have some kind of contingency, or at least enough space, enough room to make her feel comfortable to be confident in me. She supported me, and I wanted to some degree, it was me kind of purchasing or leasing her confidence. I want to extend her confidence as long as possible. So if panic ever set in, I can say, look, we're okay for now. So it's really more about making her feel like it was okay for me to start doing things, because I felt like I had to do it.
Wow, that's powerful. That's really powerful. So
That's my
you
truth.
went to these classes,
Yes.
and you said you spent 9 months not really learning a lot of anything.
Learned a lot of
So
information, but no tactical, didn't really know what to do.
so then when was it that you said enough is enough of this?
Hmm.
What do I need to do to change this cycle of 9 months and not receiving anything? What happened in your mind? What shifted in you? What did you do differently? What was that first deal? When did that first deal come into place? Take us
Got you.
there.
Got you. Okay, so if I'm completely honest, I'm trying to be. I was, again, I'm the oldest of my family, so I've always had an answer for everything. So coming out, my ego and my pride said, this is not going to be hard for me. You tell me what to do, and I'll go do it. Inside of that, I was really saying, tell me the pieces that I think I need to know, and I'll do better than you did. What I wouldn't do was I wouldn't humble myself to actually accept the perspective of the teacher or the trainer and understanding it was a process, that marketing was a process. I just figured I'd jump on the MLS, I'd talk to the right people, I'd work harder, I'd outsmart the system, and I'd do it my way and get results faster. I was wrong. After 9 months of trying to do it the way I thought I can do it, eventually I had to go back and say, okay, what did they actually tell me to do? Build a power team. What does that mean? Call these people, call these people, call these people. Do a marketing campaign to make marketing a regular habit. And I still hadn't done that yet, but I went back to, okay, what did he tell me to do? Then I hired a mentor, honestly. And the
You
mentor asked
did.
me a question. I
Can
did
I
hire a
stop you
mentor.
here?
Yeah.
So you realize early on, because when I my ego got in my way too.
Yes.
And I was
Okay.
like, you know what? I'm a realtor and Jim
Yeah, yeah.
is really good at carpentry. We would
Yes.
make a great team. We got this. We can do this. And I was so stubborn to the importance of having a coach until
Yes.
I realized that if I wanted to get to the next level of where they were,
Mm-hmm.
whoever they were, right?
Yes.
Those ones
Yes.
that I looked at and said, oh my God, I want to be like them. I want to have X, Y, and Z.
Yes.
That it was really lonely to try to do it yourself. And that
It was.
when I look back now, the one, I don't want to say it's a regret, but the one thing I wish today that I had done 20 years ago was
Mm-hmm.
to immediately hire a coach or a mentor, because I feel that I would have taken probably 15 years off of the learning curve for me. I mean, I love
No
learning
question.
and I learn every
Yes.
day.
Yes.
So to be a young person where you're still an ego, to realize you need a coach or a mentor, what was it? What did someone approach you? Did you realize I
Yeah.
can't do this on my own? What and why did you reach out to that person? What were you hoping to get from them?
Well, again, full disclosure, being honest, when we packaged our, I guess, our training package, it included a mentor, but you had to actually call and schedule the mentor. My ego, my arrogance would never have me reach out to someone else and say, can you help me? I was
Ah,
searching. I figured out on my own. I had someone who's a generation older than me who actually invested in the training, and we were technically partners. They didn't have a lot of confidence that they could do it all, but they believed in my enthusiasm and my conviction that I could do it all. So they
right, right.
invested in me by paying for the education. And it was them that said, why don't we call the coach or the mentor? And I said no for 3 months. I said no and no and no and no and no. I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. Man, I'm a 28-year-old guy. I'm full of testosterone. I'm certain of everything that I'm uncertain of. But eventually it was, okay, I'll call this person. We'll schedule it. And the person that I wanted to get, I couldn't get. She sent me her secondary person. They were pretty well established. And yeah, that was it. And then that individual, it wasn't even honestly what they helped me do specifically that got me across the board. They removed the intimidation factor of the complexity that I conceived in my mind was complex. So I given a process,
Mm.
and I overestimated the complexity of it. I would worry about contracts and lines and communications and conversations and all these little
Right.
details, and I wasn't making enough certain action to progress me along the way. So seeing them operate, I just recognized, okay, this can be much more simple than I'm making it. So it was largely me in the way, and watching them operate, I began to see that if I remove my uncertainty and just do the work, the result is almost inevitable. And that's eventually what we did.
And still today, I see it all the time. I share it repeatedly. I know you do as well.
Mm.
That in all the 20 years, the one and only thing that I have found that is the biggest obstacle is
Mm-hmm.
ourselves.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely.
there is nothing else I feel that is an obstacle. When I look at just myself, for example,
Mm-hmm.
and the insurmountable odds against me, the
Mm-hmm.
adversity that I've experienced, the same with you, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we've shared and we've talked about our lives as young people,
Yes.
and the odds were stacked against you,
Absolutely.
to be where you are. And yet you got out of your own way. And I was able to get out of my own way. And sometimes that means having to push others that are the naysayers and the dream stealers, and a lot of them
Absolutely.
share the same last name. And
Absolutely.
you can't do that real estate. What were you thinking? Don't you watch it on TV? It'll never work.
Yes.
And um, so how did you overcome these fears? What was your biggest fear, and what did you do to overcome it?
So honestly, my biggest fear then is to my biggest fear today, if I'm totally honest. I often ask people a question. Do you recall when, well, even you, Tammy, you recall when you were, well, some of us, I think I mentioned it actually at the intensive. I recall being 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old and being certain that I can do anything that I wanted. So when I got to this point where I was 10 years at my job, never planning to be there more than 3 years, I remembered that I used to believe more in myself than I did today. And eventually I started to believe that what the 12-year-old me thought about me was actually the truth. And that what I accepted for myself was a falsehood. Then I became fearful to ever meet the 12-year-old version of me in a dream. And they asked me, what have you done to my life? So
Right.
I became obsessed with meeting the me that the 12-year-old version of me saw. So honestly, I was terrified of social interaction. Today I'm very social. I network with the best of them. I have friends in every economic demographic all over the place. But it was the pressure of figuring this real estate thing out that forced me to come outside of myself. I didn't want to call realtors. I didn't want to call banks. I didn't want to sit down with lending. I didn't want to do any of that stuff. But I hadn't yet outsmarted what I'd been taught. I was trying to outsmart what I've been taught for the first 9 months. Eventually,
Right.
I had to accept what I've been taught. And it was really just a decision of, this woman that I married, made promises to her, and it's 9 months in, looked like a fool. So I was terrified to make all these promises to her and go back to a job, make all these promises to her, and her have to stay at her job forever. So I was more scared to accept the version of me that had already made me sick of me. That I didn't care what it took for me to meet the version of me I believed I could be. I hope that
Right.
makes sense, but that's what it was for me.
Absolutely. Well, just like the video that we shared at the Inner Circle Intensive on
Yes.
Sunday morning about you must be willing to accept everything that is a part of you that you don't like or you're not comfortable with, and you must be willing to
Mm-hmm.
completely put it aside so
Mm-hmm.
you can be in that space to be free to go out and build and do.
Yes.
So, in order to be in that space, though, there's something you must have seen in real estate that you knew creating success in
Mm-hmm.
real estate is possible. Just getting out of your own way isn't enough,
Okay.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
There must have been something in real estate that you said, you know what, this is doable, it's achievable, it's realistic, it makes sense. And if
Yeah.
I want to get it, then I am going to have to spend some time investing in myself
Yes.
and getting out of my own way so that I can achieve it.
Yes.
So you came to that realization, and that's amazing. So at what point, how long was it before that first deal, if we would, you got it under contract?
It was about 9 months in. Again, it was about 9 months in, and I got a couple under contract, and I didn't even know how to close or just fell through, whether because of funding or the deal just eventually didn't make sense. The first deal was actually kind of something I fumbled. I kind of screwed it up royally, but we wound up finding a way to make money out of it. It was I had negotiated a lease option on a house that was underwater in Norton, Virginia, and I thought I had a buyer lined up, and that buyer didn't have the money for a deposit, and I'm flipping through the book, trying to find out what do I say, which form do I use, and everything. Because at this point, the mentor had gone on. They had gone back to Ohio, and I couldn't call them again I had to pay to get them again. It was a 3-day mentorship. And fortunately, I had a mortgage broker friend of mine who had a buyer who was looking for a house in that area. So I just pretty much gave her the deal, like, look, you want the house, you can have it, pay me what you can. And we made $2,700. That
Wow.
$2,700 was like, okay, I want to add a zero to this.
So you knew in that moment, even though it was only $2,700, that it totally worked.
That it actually worked. I mean, I was convinced that it did because I've seen other people get checks. And I've never believed that if anyone can do it, that I could not do it, whatever it was.
Right.
But yeah, once I got the money, I was obsessed with getting the next one.
So, but how did you know that early on, right? Real estate, the thing that was so hard for me is
Mm.
that there was so many options. There's
Okay.
so
Yeah.
many ways of doing real
Yes.
estate.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
the first 5-day event that I went to
Okay.
was up in Stamford, Connecticut, and
Mm.
it was flipping and rehabbing. And
Okay.
so that's what I saw, that's what I was taught, that's what I knew, so that's what I did. There
Okay.
it was, go get a deal, flip the deal, make money, and repeat. I had no clue how to market. I was not a marketer. I was
Right.
obsessed with the fact that I was not a salesman, that I was not a marketer. I was a realtor. I was an investor. And, I soon came to realize that we are salesmen. We are
Absolutely.
marketers. It's what we do. But
Absolutely.
I only did what I knew to go do. And
Yeah.
we made every mistake in the world. We lost money. But then I started to see that it did work, and that we did make money. And I'm not saying that everybody's going to lose money. I
Right.
didn't have a coach. I didn't have a mentor. We just did what
Mm.
we knew how to do,
Right.
and we did what we had been taught. And I'm able to see now, looking back, a lot of that probably would have been unavoidable. And
Mm.
when you lose a lot of money on a deal, I call that a seminar,
Oh
because
yeah.
you learn so much from it. Um,
Absolutely.
and when I reflect back on all of the ones where we learned so much, it was the ones where we made mistakes. And I always say to myself, if I had only had a coach during that time, would this have come out differently? Would
Uh
I
huh.
maybe have not put a contract on that deal because I was emotionally excited?
Uh huh.
Maybe I bought it incorrectly, but I didn't have the resources or the tools or that support there. So you made $2,700. That's amazing. And you knew that it was possible. But how did you know what direction to go in real estate? How did you know if you wanted to flip, or if you wanted to rehab, or if you wanted to do lease options? Uh, how did you figure out what to get involved into?
Well, that also was kind of a bungalow situation. At the time, again, for me, it's been 10 years. So if you think about the timeline, this is 2007, 2008. The world's falling apart. Banks don't want to fund loans. Everybody's underwater in our area, and everybody's scared. But if you remember also, every training, coaching company in the country is marketing a lot. We can fix this, we can save it, and so forth. And just as it is today, flipping houses has always been perceived as sexy. People have YouTube channels and TV shows flipping houses. So for me, flipping houses seemingly made the most sense at the time. Eventually that changed for me. So my focus was always to try to flip these houses. You say the first thing you learned was flipping. First thing I learned was mobile homes. But mobile homes, I was like, no, that's not what I want. I want to get some money first, flip a house, then go back cash. Because cash flow was my desired end goal. I just didn't know how to get there. It seemed more complex to me at the time. I learned later it wasn't the case. So we started looking for houses to flip because we had banks that we knew we can get loans done through, and we had properties that we thought we could buy, and nobody could get funding. Hard money was hard to get back then. And so literally I went and started looking at mobile homes to flip originally. And I had a few in the contract, never sold them to anybody else, ended up canceling the contract. Then we got a house under contract in Capitol Heights, Maryland. And we created about $27,000 in profit. And we flipped it over in like 45 days, and I've been for the next 3 years.
That was your first real successful flip?
Yes.
Was a single-family home in Capitol Heights.
Yep.
That you got under contract, and 45 days later, you flipped it and made.
I got a check.
You got a check.
$27,000.
Wow. $27,000. Yep. So you literally added a zero.
I literally added a zero.
You literally added a zero.
I kind of cheated on that, honestly. I would say I cheated. I kept pushing the numbers on the seller concessions and everything. I wanted to get it right at $27,000 plus because I wanted a zero to $2,700. So I played around for a while with the loan officer and the buyer to get $27,000 to be what showed the bottom of the hood for me. That was a big deal to me.
Wow. But you did it.
I did it. We did.
So how many months was that, or how many years was that into when you started into real estate before that happened?
That was about, we had to check at about month 12. So
okay,
if I started,
so a year.
Yeah, in month 12. Yep, a year. Yep.
So
in month 12.
When you received that check at settlement, did you know in that moment that was it? Like this is what you were playing full out for. This is what you were doing. And look out, world, Broderick is here, and there's no looking back, because it gave you, I'll never forget that feeling, that confidence that you can do it, that it is achievable, that it can happen. And did you know at that time, though, that it would be a business? Or like what was next? What's next after you cash the check?
Well, honestly, I didn't know the difference at that time between having a business and just making some money. I didn't understand it, honestly, back then much. I always had some kind of side business. No, we aren't. Yeah. Not at all. Not at all. But fortunately for me, at the time, that was actually the second deal that we had scheduled for closing. We had a short sale that was being wholesaled to us from an estate. The short sale continually got pushed and pushed and pushed along. I found another house, which was the one in Capitol Heights. In the process of renovating Capitol Heights house, we closed on a house in Cheverly, Maryland. So I'm finishing one, and I'm closing on another to acquire. So literally, as I'm closing the one in Cheverly, we began renovating the one in Cheverly, and one I've been playing around with in Clinton, Maryland for the past 3 months finally came through. So I ended up with 3 houses, I'm overwhelmed completely, all completely under my hands in about probably a 50-day period of time when they were all actually still owned by me. So I'm freaking out. I'm trying to delay closing because I can't find all the money. I'm borrowing money from credit cards. I'm pulling money out of my IRA account to fund it myself. I know how to raise private money, though. I didn't like that hard money taking so long. But yeah, in the next 3 months, and now it's the winter time again. The next 3 full months, we closed 3 houses.
Wow. When the market was in a total upheaval,
Yes.
and what do you attribute the success of those houses selling in a market that was in a total upheaval?
For me, it was obsession. I was obsessed with making it work. I knew enough to know that houses were selling, but it took some patience to get them sold. That you had to pay some seller concessions sometimes. So I would leave you right in about 10% of what the profit is going to be. I got to give away between realtor fees and closing costs and everything. If I made enough seller concessions, if I overbuilt the house, because back then you didn't put granite in houses that were
Right.
$175,000, but that started happening around that time.
Right.
So we started
Right.
putting granite everywhere and stainless steel. So the single mom who only makes 38 grand a year, who can afford $1,000 a month, she got a 3-bedroom, 1 bath with granite and stainless steel. And I literally just tried to model what I saw was available and tried to, you know, undercut the market to some degree. Again, I've been selling things my whole life, and once the first one was sold, I didn't know how not to do it again. Like I didn't realize till later I didn't know what I was doing. Honestly, it just kind of my persistence and the people who I'd met in the business were enough to get me across the finish line.
Right. So during that process, you're only what, 15 months in? You've
About
got
yeah, about 15 months in.
three three houses under
Yes,
contract.
totally freaked out.
Three,
Yes.
and I know what it felt like for me when I had two going simultaneously. And it's very scary. It's very overwhelming.
Oh yeah.
So in total honesty and total transparency, here you are only 15 months in, and you've got
Mhm.
three single family homes
Mhm.
under contract. The market is completely falling apart. Brock, what was it? Because it is not just Brock, the amazing rock
No.
star rehabber.
No.
There was something more inside of you that it's the obsession, it's the passion, it's
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
becoming unmessable with, or that, failure is not an option. What was it inside of you that just it like it's so burning, that desire is so intense that no matter what, you're going to push through and you're going to make sure. What was that for you?
So I don't know if anyone on the webinar tonight has ever read the Bible before. There's a story in the Bible of Moses, story of Moses. And Moses, I guess, was the deliverer for his people. And something along the lines of if he didn't choose to go, then the people couldn't follow behind him. When I was 8 or 9 years old, my grandmother read me that story. I didn't know what she was talking about. And she told me, she said, that's you. She said, they will only go as far as you go. They will only go if you go. And
Mm-hmm.
I took that responsibility very, very young as a kid. So when I saw what was possible, I felt I didn't know how not to remove the responsibility that I've been carrying my whole life to make the possible now real for those who believed in me but didn't believe that it was really possible for them. So honestly, it was less about me, Tammy, if I'm totally honest. I've never really started much for myself. I started the journey because I wanted to disprove the ideas that myself, my family, and my neighborhood I grew up in had accepted as true for us. So when things got rough or got tough, I saw my wife's face. I made my mom's promises when I was a 12-year-old kid. I made my dad promises, and I had promises out in the universe, out in the world, out in the community, and I had to honor those promises. And I never really cared what it cost or took of me to show up that way. Once I believed it was possible, I could not fully engage.
Was there
That's my
ever
truth.
the fear? Thank you. I appreciate that. Was there ever that fear, though, that you were going to maybe fail? And if you did fail, what what would that have been like? Or have you failed?
Absolutely, I have. Actually, not long after that third house, Again, my ego set in, and I overestimated. I mean, I'm brand new. I'm a rock star now, right? Guys in the game 2, 3 years, they don't have 3 houses. I have 3 houses. I must be smarter than everyone else. So I overestimated my capacity to get the next deal. I concluded that I was so good at X that ABC didn't matter. That I pick up ABC when I feel like it again. So I believe that the $80,000 or $90,000 or the way it made in a 90, 100-day period of time was because of what I had done 100 days ago. What happened was my leads dried up. I didn't get another deal for 4 more months. So 3 deals in 3 months of each other. 4 more months I'll get my next deal. So I'm totally stressed out. Making big promises again, telling the whole world they can do it too. I'm running my mouth again. I wasn't yet a marketer. I was primarily on MLS, plucking off deals. I didn't respect the process. And I learned a good lesson that wound up being one of my pinnacle I wish I knew when I started. And I believe success comes from habits. And I didn't know that back then. I didn't have the habits of the individual that could get the next deal. So after a few months of being frustrated and spinning my wheels over and over and over again, trying to just shortcut everything, I went back to what I started doing 9, 10 months ago. I thought that the deals I got because of what I had done right before the deal. What I didn't understand was the work that I put in for those first 9 months had begun to pay off for me. My confidence increased, my capacity increased, my network increased, my credibility increased. I increased through the process of applying myself for those 9 months. I tried to shortcut what I didn't understand was my process. So yeah, I did fail then, and it was a few months, the money dried up. My wife is now pregnant with our first kid, and I'm terrified. We eventually picked it back up, did a few more houses that year, learned how to do a few more things, started marketing on our own then. But yeah, we did fail again a couple of years later. We had stacked up some cash and built other businesses and took my eyes off the ball and lost everything twice in the last 10 years. So yes, I have failed. I've literally lost the house we were in, the cars we were driving. I bought too many cars. I was too flashy. I had a Mercedes, BMW, and Audi all at the same time in the driveway. Bought a house that was too big and wound up giving it all back.
So when you look back at the materialistic aspect, we all go through that. We do. We do.
Yeah.
If you knew then what you know now, maybe this isn't a fair question. Would you still have done and bought the big house and all the fancy cars and lived above your means if you knew now at your age, if someone older and wiser had said, Broderick, look, I know you're just getting started. When you cash that first $50,000 check or that first $100,000 check and you get a couple houses under your belt, and they said, whatever you do, live below your means. Don't get wrapped up in the material things. Would you have listened? Would you have not gone out and bought those things? And if you hadn't bought those things, would you have been able to pull through?
So the truth is that the me today would like to believe I would have listened. But honestly, the me I was then, I wouldn't have listened. I was too full of myself, too certain that I was more certain than you were certain. I would have never submitted myself to accept those realities. No, I probably would have done nothing different at all. So what changed for me was just one day I asked myself, what actually matters to me? I never actually wanted a bigger house per se. I didn't need the cars. Honestly, I did those things that I thought made me more credible in the world. What I realized was, to those whom that made me more credible with, they didn't do any business with me anyway. And the people that actually did do business with me, they never asked and never cared in the first place.
Right.
So it was a lesson that I had to learn probably the hard way, honestly. Because like I said, I was quite full of myself. I was.
Yeah. I've never been caught up in the material things because, of my trauma accident, and I was young. I was only
Okay.
27 and a young single mom when I got hit by a drunk driver, left paralyzed.
Mm.
And like you, I've lost everything twice, but I realized that I'm not afraid to lose,
Yes.
because I've lost.
Yes.
And what I do know is that nobody can ever take away my knowledge, my
Yes.
love. They can take away all my material possessions, but they can't take away what I have in here and what I have in here. And I know I've already done it once, so I know I can go out there and do it again.
Yep.
And I know a lot of new investors are so afraid of that loss or that failure that there's so much what if, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
what if this happens, and what if this happens, and well, what about this, and well, what do I do if somebody says this, and well, what do I do about this? And it's easier, I know, in hindsight, and it's easier said than done when we say just jump, just do it,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and I
Yeah. Yeah.
get that. So as a brand new investor, someone newer in real estate, or maybe someone that's done a couple of deals, what when you look back over all of your life, your wisdom, your experience, what could you share with them that would help to take that edge off, that what if edge or that learning curve, to make them jump and realize that you can do this, you can achieve this.
Mhm.
It is going to
Mhm.
take work. There's no doubt.
Yes.
Where it's not you. This isn't going to just be handed to you on a silver platter,
Not at
right?
all.
If it was that easy, everybody would be doing it. But if you could share now with someone like yourself 20 years ago,
Mhm.
what would you share? What would you advise them?
Well, and I actually occasionally do advise this, and it may sound weird at first, but when I tell people, hurry up and fast, like hurry up and screw up, like get it out the way. What I mean by that is not to make a ridiculous, huge decision. What I really mean is sit down with pen and a pad. Consider what's actually the worst you think can happen. It's usually not as bad as you think it's going to be. What thing of loss scares you the most, whether it be a credit or someone case may be. And then once you get it out the way, if you're going to do it, decide you're going to do it. Decision, cut away the possibility of not doing it, and then just start doing it. I say just start doing it because I believe that we're all going to make a lot of the same mistakes in the beginning. Again, unless someone's there holding your hand, like a coach or mentor that's really in it with you, you're likely going to screw up. You're going to screw up a contract. You're going to send an EMD directly when you shouldn't. You're going to do all these little small things at the beginning thinking you know what you're doing. So I often tell people, get it out the way. Hurry up and screw up. Go make a mistake that I got to fix. Let's not make a big mistake. Let's mitigate our loss here, our risk
Yeah.
here, but get it out the way.
And the thing I want to share, Broderick, is that it's okay to make mistakes, like you're saying. I'm
Yeah.
still here. You're still here. And
Yes.
God knows we've made, tons of mistakes.
Yes.
And you're right. It is going to happen. There's no way for anybody to know everything. And even if you have a coach or a mentor or a guide that is in it with you, they
Mm-hmm.
can't do it for you.
Not at all.
They can't make the calls. They can't go to the networking events for you. They can't
Right.
want it more than you.
Not at all.
They can't, they can't go out there and look at properties and do repair estimates and, talk to realtors and submit deals. So you have to jump. You
Yes.
have to start somewhere, and there
Yes.
will always be the what if. But
Yes.
I would rather the what if be back here behind my head than always up here staring me in the face. You know?
Yeah.
Okay, so what if? I mean, I'm still here. No, I'm still
Yeah.
alive. You're still alive. You may have less hair than I do from all the frustrations, but you're still smiling, you're still happy, and you're still doing amazing.
I smile more
So,
after than I did before.
yeah. So you have shared with me that money is not the biggest obstacle. and I get it now.
Yeah. Yeah.
When so many investors start out, they see the dollar signs.
Yeah.
It's what they feel is going to take them out of their current situation, that is going to be the easy solution, the easy fix. Real estate is get rich quick. It's the answer for everything. I'm going to be able to quit my job. I'm going to be making $10,000 a month, and
Yeah.
everything's going to be great. And I it was a very short period of time for me where when I was analyzing, and I would say, okay, I'm going to make X. And then every single time something would always happen with the deal.
Mm.
And I would get so frustrated because I would end up spending the money in my head.
Yes.
A couple times I spent the money out of my checkbook before I even had it at settlement because I was so
Wow.
confident that it was coming in. There
Wow.
was even a time where I was so emotionally excited about a property in Gaithersburg, Maryland, that we went in and started renovating it before we went to closing on it.
Wow.
And we didn't purchase it.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. So believe me, I have the same mistakes too. And I realized that once I set my ego aside, that the
Mm.
more people that I served,
Yes.
meaning the sellers that I paid attention to, the
Yes.
buyers that I respected, the other investors that I paid attention to, the more that I started serving, and I had heard this,
Yeah.
I will
Yeah.
totally share. I'm not a religious person. I'm a very spiritual person. And I believe in the laws of attraction. I believe what we think and what we manifest, and what we
Mm.
put out there. I believe in God. I know God is with me. And I
Right.
know everything that has been done in my life, created in my life, and that is a part of my life is not a direct result of me. It is a direct
Mm-hmm.
result of Him.
Yes.
And so the more I served, the more I started to receive. The more I started to receive, the more lives were being changed. And then all of a sudden there was this shift, and I realized, and I share it now all the time, stop focusing on the money.
Mm-hmm.
And when
Mm-hmm.
you stop focusing on the money and the profit, now we have to have money to live. We have bills to
Absolutely.
pay. We have mortgages. We
Absolutely.
have insurance. We have car notes. We have to eat. We have clothes, right? All those things. But it's a mindset. And I'm curious if, when you say that money is not the biggest obstacle, can you take us there? Because I feel like I know what you're talking about. I know what I experienced in that shift when I stopped focusing on the profit and this business being about the money. And I
Mm-hmm.
get it. When you
Mm-hmm.
want this business to work and you feel that you have to have that money because in order to leave your job, you have to have that $10,000 a month, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So it is about money. I get that. But
Yes.
it's the mindset. And can you just elaborate on that?
So for me, what you kind of framed up was money not being the focus, but you also asked money not being the biggest obstacle. So I'm gonna speak to both of them because we start off in this business or any business. You ask 10 people they want to start a business, 8 will say yes. Well, why don't you? I don't have the money. And I've learned that the money to start or the money to acquire is often it's not the biggest problem. We often believe that it is. And I begin saying to some of my, I guess, coaching students myself, if you want money to not be an issue, create a vision big enough for your business that leaves room for me. A vision big enough that leaves room for someone to join you. The show Shark Tank. Sometimes a company will come on and Mark Cuban will say, well, yes, you got a good business. It'll take care of you, but it's not investable. Well, he's saying it's a profitable business, but there's no room for me to participate. The vision's too small for others to join you. And that's often what the challenge is, I believe, we're trying to raise money or consider we need money for an endeavor. And if the vision is big enough and you can clarify the ways you can share the benefits of yourself and those that could participate, you can acquire the money that you need for the endeavor. Additionally, when you say money not being spoke about it not being the focus, then honestly what you just said, I made the most money in real estate, not flipping houses. Eventually, that following year, we began doing our marketing campaigns. And I was spending time on the phone with sellers, trying to understand, fill out my phone, trying to understand what they needed. Originally, just so I can have a wholesale flip my houses.
Right, right.
Eventually, I began hearing their pains and their troubles and so forth. My focus had began focused on solving their problem. And I ended up making far more money the next 3 years helping homeowners solve their problems, focus on them, their needs, and the process than I ever did just focusing on flipping a house to get a check. So even now in all of our businesses, we build a profit model, but the focus is never the profit. Because I want me and my team to be fully present in the process, trusting that the profit comes at the end of the process. I hope that makes sense.
Well, it totally does, because when you are focused on solving the problem,
yes,
or creating a solution to the challenge or the adversity,
yes,
that person is experiencing, regardless of who they are, and
right,
you listen to what their challenges are, you become the solution to those challenges.
mm-hmm.
They trust you, they like you, they want to do business with you. And then
Mm-hmm.
they believe you. So therefore, you automatically become the person that they want to work with.
Yes.
And because of that, the byproduct becomes the profit.
Yes.
So instead of looking at a real estate deal and saying, how much money am I going to make from this? Now, obviously, we've got,
Absolutely.
yes, we have to analyze.
Yes.
We
yes.
have to know what we're buying it at. We have to understand that. But in our mind, when we come from a place of not being so focused on the money, but
mm-hmm.
being more focused on the lives that we're going to change,
yes,
or the problems that we're going to solve,
yes,
you're saying that you also made more money in that year when that became your mindset.
That year and many years to follow. When you heard my saying that from that period of time, it framed my worldview and business down. So if someone asks me what I do, you heard me say before, I make friends for a living. So now whether it's someone I'm selling to, someone I'm buying from, I'm networking with, I make friends for a living. Now, it doesn't mean we're going to have a barbecue together, we're going to come to my house. But when I meet you, Tammy, or I meet someone else, I want that person to feel like I'm the kind of person they want to keep talking to. They want to go get a cup of coffee with. And that idea of serving people and sharing my capacity to solve their problem with them eventually made me more money. It wound up leading to more businesses that were actually being more profitable for me than my real estate deals were. We still do real estate, but that reframing of my mind, rather from focusing on the profit single, I mean, the profit is the outcome desired, absolutely. The profit is normally designed before I get started. My focus doesn't then direct towards the profit per se. It begins to focus on all the things in between me and the profit. And always what's in between me and the profit is you. Mm-hmm. You, a person. Every dollar I've ever gotten, I got from another person. So if that person is not willing to give me that dollar, I don't get to get it. And I want my dollar. So I've learned that the best way to get my profit is not to make profit my primary focus. It's my primary intention at the end of it all, my primary focus. You're my focus when I'm talking to you. The contract, the focus, I focus on the contract. The house, the focus on the house. The contract, whatever pieces are between me and the profit, what I focus on at the moment. I don't focus singularly on the profit. When I did that, I did less quality work. I hired the wrong people. I cut corners. I tried to save money, ultimately cost me money. I've had inspectors in different parts of different counties shut down my projects because I was trying to not get the permitting that I should have did because it would delay my build out. Well, it cost me more money. When I was profit focused only, I made way too many mistakes, and people didn't like working with me.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I understand. I mean, I have never been completely focused on the money because I've lost it twice. You know what I mean?
Right.
But my challenges have been is that I am an emotional person, and I know a lot of
Okay.
people out there are emotional.
Oh yeah.
So I got excited. You know,
Yeah.
I'm easily excitable. I believe people, I trust people, and so
Mm-hmm.
I would take a lot of what people said at face value. You know, I can do this, I
Mm-hmm.
can do that, I can do this. You know, this is a great house, you should buy this. And I learned to trust but verify. And
Mm-hmm.
I didn't always do that in the beginning. I didn't always do my due diligence because I was so excited
Right.
about
Right.
the opportunity. I was so excited about the deal that I didn't take the time to do the due diligence. And
Yeah.
as a coach now, one of the things that I share over and over and over again is breathe and slow down
Yes.
and take the time to make sure that you do the due diligence, to make
Mm-hmm.
sure that you're buying the property right.
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible to do six figures in 6 months?
Is it possible? Absolutely. Is it predictable? Not at all. I don't think. Like I don't think there's a plan that you can plug in and say I'm going to six figures in 6 months. There's a plan you design that could possibly get you there. I think it's possible, yeah, but I don't think it's something we can plan on or predict.
So I'm glad you brought that up because there are a lot of investors also, we see this time and time again,
Mm-hmm.
their expectations of what they think real estate is, what
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be in their life, or the amount of money. That's the big thing, right? The amount of money
Yes.
that
Yes.
they're going to make
Yes.
is so unreal and are unrealistic that they feel that after X number of months, and I've heard this, well, I've been doing this for 6 months and I didn't receive this, or I've been doing this for 2 years and I didn't get this, and this real estate stuff, it doesn't work. And
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
what, for someone, again, that's a year into it, 6 months into it, 2 years into it, what words of wisdom, what advice, what real life, real world real estate can you share that is really from the street? It's not the gurus, it's not the
Right. Right.
books,
Right.
it's not the shiny objects. What is real? What can they really expect?
And it's interesting to use that word because often I think that the word expect or the expectations are often what cause us to decide that it doesn't work. I had a mentor of mine years ago. Tell me that desires feed you, expectations eat you. So if someone desires six figures in 6 months, that's a great desire. The desire should be, used as fuel to focus on the process and borrow the belief of those that taught you and commit yourself to the work that it takes and trusting that your desire is inevitable to achieve if you stick to the process. When we switch from desire to expectation, then all of a sudden, what was once inspiration, a fuel for us, begins to erode at our thoughts, our subconscious, eat at our emotions, speak to our insecurities, and every day that we don't have that check is another day that compounds our disbelief and our uncertainty. So very often, again, desire should feed you. Expectations often eat us. For me, I had a lot of the same challenges. Is that during that first 9 months, I would just try harder, try harder, try harder, try harder, try harder. Wake up earlier, try harder. That's what all the success coaches on YouTube say, and all the people in the classrooms say, just try harder. But I'm trying hard. I'm thinking to myself, this is just not working. I'm doing something I'm trying to do is just not what I should be doing. I had another friend of mine, different kind of business, and he heard me say, practice makes perfect. He said, no, it doesn't. The practice makes permanent. If you're practicing the wrong things, it won't make you perfect. It'll
Yep.
permanently have you doing things wrong.
That's
So I
true.
think a lot of times the expectations force us a lot of times to not be fully available, present in the process. We take shortcuts. We underestimate things we shouldn't underestimate. We overestimate our capacity. Tony Robbins often says we underestimate greatly what we can get done in a year, but we underestimate what we can get done in 10 years. And I believe that's
Yeah.
totally true. I fell into that trap. And it's very easy even now to forget that at times, particularly when you see an outcome that seems so predictable or attainable. But I remind myself, come back to what process do I see us getting there? Let's focus on the process. I've learned that you focus on the process, the results are inevitable. And what timeline is not always predictable. You know, you can set benchmarks, I think, but 6 figures in 6 months, if you're just beginning, most of us don't even have the emotional capacity to manage the pace it would take to get there, in my experience. Now, it's
Right.
not saying that anyone can't do it, but most of us aren't even ready to know what that life even looks like. And I know for myself, there's a great book, 10X Rule by Grant Cardone. And it speaks about how whatever effort or focus you think it's going to take, 10X it.
Yep.
I thought when I first got married, oh, yeah, they did that wrong, I'll do it right. Well, it took 10 times the focus it did to sustain our marriage. In the business, I figured I get up early, if I apply myself, I'll work hard, but nobody ever defined hard. No one ever really defined focus. Didn't define it for me. So we always, I realize when we start, underestimate what's required of us to get where we're trying to go.
Yep. Amen. I mean it, I I have on my computer that beautiful, beautiful, intense image of an iceberg. And
Yeah.
all you see is just that little tiny crystal white ice that is
Yeah,
at the
yeah.
top of the ocean. But what you don't see is this massive, 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 massive foundation,
Mm-hmm.
that is under the water, and what it
Yes.
took to create this that nobody ever saw. And
Right.
while it was expanding and growing and building, it was under the water. Nobody ever saw it. And
Yeah.
so all of a sudden, the peak just slowly comes up, but all you ever see is just that little tiny piece,
Yep. Yep.
and that's when everybody goes, "Oh, you're so lucky. Oh, this is so awesome. Wow, how did you do all this?"
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's all real estate to me is a commitment. Real estate to me is a
Absolutely.
lifestyle. And so one of the things I so love about our time together is the honesty and the
Mm.
transparency, because
Yeah.
that's what we are about at Capital City RIA, right? It's no
Yeah.
BS, it's no fluff. It is real world real estate. It's real life. It's what we do out there on the street. It's not sugarcoating. It's not holding up big, huge, fancy checks from 10 years ago and saying, if you flip houses, this is what you can do. It's about sharing what we have to do in life. It's about balance. It's about creating a business. It's about understanding how to sustain the business. It's about how
Yeah.
to go out there and network. And I know we don't have a whole lot more time left, and I want to be respectful of everybody's time, but I know on November 29th, uh, just next week after Thanksgiving, you have shared that you're going to come in and share a lot more information and knowledge about how
Yes.
someone could apply this information, get into real estate, create real estate as a business, but as a sustainable business, not as
Yeah.
a shiny object business,
Yes.
and how they can go out and make this a reality. And so I want to make sure that everybody knows that normally our RIA events are the fourth Wednesday of every month, but the fourth Wednesday happens to be in 2 days, which is Thanksgiving. So we want you to
Tomorrow.
be able, it's Tuesday, so 2 days.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So we want everybody to be able to enjoy their family and have a beautiful Thanksgiving. And so our RIA, Capital City RIA meeting is going to be on Wednesday, November 29th. Make sure you go to
Yeah.
meetup.com and get registered. And we are really going to be setting the stage for 2018, right, Brock? And what
Oh
we
yeah.
can do now to prepare for 2018. You and I were talking
Yes.
about this the other day about what you and I do to get prepared for the year
Yes.
and
Yes.
what we
Yes.
implement and put in place. And so, please make sure you join us on Wednesday, November 29th. Doors open at 6. We'll do our fun speed networking or some sort of hot seat networking that we'll do, and then we'll get right into an amazing presentation. So I can't thank you enough for being here and sharing
My
so
pleasure.
honestly, so transparently. It's always so much awesome stuff that you share, and it comes from the heart, and it's so genuine. And I look forward to sharing with you again next Wednesday, the 29th, at the RIA meeting. And
Absolutely.
I know you're going to have lots of questions because you are so real and you take it down to that real level. So I hope you have an amazing Thanksgiving. I hope everyone has safe travels
Yes.
if you're going to be out there on the road. Hope you get to spend time with family and friends, or if you're
Absolutely.
serving or whatever it is that you're doing. May God bless you. Brock, thank you so, so much for sharing this
My
evening with
pleasure.
me.
My pleasure.
Is there anything that you would like to share in closing?
No, I just want to again, thank you and everyone who joined us tonight. I said before, I don't take this lightly at all. I still recall even 10 years ago, 15 years ago, being a kid that stuttered every third word. So even the idea of me conversing for an hour and a half with someone about things that matter to me and not having the insecurity that I can't talk is tremendous honor for me. It's a story of me overcoming some obstacles, and I think that reality for you and I both can help the others, borrow our belief, borrow our certainty. And come on out 29th, we're going to focus on showing you how to build that foundation, that iceberg under the water there, so you can eventually see the peak of that iceberg and the glory that the world will call you one day overnight success.
Yeah, awesome. All right, everybody, here's to your extraordinary success. Here's to an amazing, blessed, and happy Thanksgiving. Thank you guys all so much. Mwah! Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Good night.